Yeah, exactly.
Some chicken farmer.
All right. Let me see here. Fix the volume almost. All right, this is episode 11 of Sucio Talk, and I'm joined with my boy Jeff. Say your last name.
Stewart.
There you go, Jeff Stewart. He used to farm for Tallulah on Thames that I worked with when I worked with Jake Rojas over here in Newport, Rhode Island. So after a short plane ride, about 6 hours, and a nice quarantine and a negative COVID test, here I am today. We're outside in the frosty nor'easter that just happened a couple days ago.
Yeah,
How
we're
was
waiting
that
for
you?
another one. It's supposed to snow and rain today.
Yeah, I know, yeah. We'll see what happens. So, Jeff, how are you?
I'm well, thank you.
Yeah.
Nice to see you.
Yeah, for sure. Nice to have you on. Thanks for the greenery.
You're very welcome.
It's beautiful.
We try to grow as many things as we can in-house.
For sure.
And given the change of the world with, a lot of the pandemic stuff,
Yeah.
a lot of the focus shifted from kind of restaurant selling, not that that still isn't important, but,
Yeah.
more trying to grow food, quote unquote,
Yeah.
and grow stuff that we can eat. And so there's been a change, and the focus is, really just growing the best stuff we can grow, but, trying to shift some of the audience and some of the clientele that, currently are either not buying stuff or just having their own challenges. So.
For sure, for sure. So, before we get into COVID, Sucio Talk, we take it all the way back. We're going to start from when you were a little kid,
Yep.
Where you grew up, and what'd your parents do for a living?
Well, I was born in 1957
All right.
in November, and I'm 63 now. So I was born in Woonsocket, Rhode Island.
Woonsocket,
of all
Rhode
places.
Island. All right.
And my father worked for a company in Woonsocket that was a plastics manufacturing company called Cumberland Engineering.
Yeah.
And he was a salesperson, traveling salesperson, and was on the road pretty much 6 days a week. And I was born a twin brother to my brother Joe, who is 5 minutes younger than me.
Whoa.
And we were fraternal twins.
Okay.
And I have a sister that's 5 years older than me that lives here in Middletown, and I have my farm on her property.
Okay.
She has 16 acres in Middletown.
All right. And then you're farming the 16 acres or the
No,
the
I
total
have
of the whole.
I have about an acre
Okay.
carved out of the field that is mostly raised beds, hoop houses, and kind of high productivity regenerative farming. We're trying to, the kind of thing has evolved into a no-till, where we're trying just to work on soil biology, but it's a lot of raised beds with fairly high performance soils and compost, but it's fairly small in terms of size, but in terms of one person, at this point it's me.
Yeah.
It's a lot to do, and so I'm trying to pick crops that are more.
You've always had an issue with getting good staff.
Yeah, and like
That's
everyone,
been-
it kind of is like the restaurant industry.
Yeah.
It's just it isn't even the question of getting them.
Yeah.
It's a question of finding people that care.
That want to stay.
That
want
care.
to do the work.
That
Yeah.
care. I
Yeah.
mean, that have a passion for it and care. I mean,
Yeah.
they give kind of. They really care about the quality, and they really care about doing the right thing.
Yeah.
And those people are few and far between. And it's kind of like, again, a restaurant in a kitchen. I mean, unless you're really driven to be in that environment and are excited and driven to some career,
Yeah.
it's just a job.
Okay.
And I don't need anybody there just to do a job. And I'm more than happy to pay fair wage. I mean, I pay more than anybody else would pay for that job. But I
Yeah.
just, I have had people. I've had people through the years. But, at this point, it's pretty much given the thin margins.
Yeah.
It just doesn't make sense to pay somebody $15 an hour and grow stuff that's $3 a pound.
Yeah.
It's just the math is not there. But I've gotten pretty good at being able to develop a lot of things that are pretty productive.
Yeah.
Anyway, we can get into the where I am today versus where we're going. But the bottom line is I was born in Rhode Island, and
Now you're back.
Never thought I'd be back.
Okay.
And there was a long road of, a million miles between that.
Oh, for sure.
But I left here.
How old were you?
We moved back and forth between New Jersey and Rhode Island, where my father was being transferred probably 6 or 7, 8 times.
Okay.
So we never were in one place more than 2 years.
All right.
So we were a lot of moving around between high schools, between elementary schools. Again, I had a twin brother, so we, had some people we knew, but we moved around a lot.
Yeah.
And
did you have any interest at the time in farming at all, or
no.
What were you into then? High school?
Well, again, as I was growing up, I was a teenager, or even younger than teenager. I was, kind of the classic rebel without a cause. I had hair down below my shoulders, and I was into music.
Yeah.
Playing music, and in a band. And
what was the band called?
Oh, I had a bunch of bands. But back then, it was more just screwing around.
Yeah.
And playing music with friends and getting high and partying. And, I was pretty much one of those people that they referred to as, what are they?
A delinquent.
Heads, potheads.
There you go.
I was smoking weed from when I was 15.
Yeah.
And playing music and into
Now, how did you get your first your hands on your first bit of marijuana? Like, how was that like? When you were 15, how did that come about?
I knew, like a lot of older people.
Yeah,
and they were either people that were selling it, or they were brothers or sisters of people I hung out with. So it was relatively easy, and that's been pretty much, as we all know in America, like it or not, that. To get weed has been ubiquitous forever. People pretend like, you grow up in America, it's part of your growing up.
It's part of the culture, yeah.
Well, it's everywhere. It's a cultural thing. And then, the availability of it back then was a lot different. And then I spent a lot of time in that world in a deep, dark, not dark, but nothing to be ashamed of. But, I spent a lot of time around people that were into that and into doing nefarious things around that.
Okay.
And
so, when did you leave the Northeast?
Well, I kind of went to New Jersey and Rhode Island back and forth, and wound up graduating high school in Barrington, Rhode Island.
Okay.
And between Tinton Falls, New Jersey, and Barrington, Rhode Island, you kind of came out of high school, and then went to New Jersey, and wound up going to Stockton State College down in South Jersey to study business and political science.
Yeah.
And went down there, but still, very much kind of into music, and started a bunch of more, music and nefarious activities in college, and wound up hooking up with a bunch of people with some good musicians and a good band, and had some pretty successful bands down there. And those bands were,
what kind of music we talking? Rock and roll?
No, basically rhythm and blues, rock and roll. But I was a lead singer, harmonica player, percussionist. I was the front man of this band, and nobody knows this shit. This is all kind of back in the day. People always think, really? Because, yeah, really. But we had a really successful band down in South Jersey, and it was about 6, 7 pieces. Did a lot of Grateful Dead and like Santana, and all kinds of Allman Brothers, and all kinds of blues, Muddy Waters, all that kind of stuff. And had a successful thing doing that, and at the same time hooked up with a bunch of dudes that were, kind of in the wholesale weed business.
Okay.
And wound up, kind of getting a lot of money to fund the musical pursuits and buy all the equipment in a van, and kind of fund all the shit that it takes to do that, and put a band on the road basically through that endeavor.
Yeah.
And at the same time, it's outside Atlantic City, New Jersey, so at the same time the casinos were starting to come to fruition, and shit was happening, so there was a lot of activity with that. And I went and worked with some pretty serious dudes that were, again, a lot older than me.
Yeah.
That ran a huge amount of things through all kinds of wacky. The guy owned a huge used rent-a-car company.
Yeah.
It's a famous company. I won't say the name. And he used that as a cover, basically, to move large amounts of product from basically Florida up to the Northeast.
Where was Florida getting it from?
we were flying it in from other, Jamaica,
Yeah.
from other islands, from Colombia, from...
I've always been very fascinated with that because you hear the stories, you watch the documentaries, but like, how does that all actually work? Like,
Yeah, it was, it was driven by a lot of... these were independents that I worked for, but had connected up to a lot of organizations that were, kind of in the business of the logistics. And a lot of the people who were on this, call it team, were ex-Navy and Air Force and flew planes, a couple feet above the ground in a swamp down in Florida and drop shit, and we'd, go pick it up in the... And then, what was the lowest kind of job on the totem pole was the runner.
Yeah.
And those are the people that drove these rent-a-cars.
Yeah.
That turned out had no registration, no insurance, or just
they were just
filled with weed.
Yeah.
And then somebody would drive behind you. So there'd
Make
be two
sure you
cars.
didn't get tailed.
Well, no, if you did get pulled over, their job would be to basically ram the police car and you take off. So you didn't really want to get to that scenario, but, it was basically a way to provide some backup.
Yeah.
Somebody kind of... But these cars were loaded with, huge amounts of weed. And
What amount in weight, you think?
it depended. The car was big enough and a big trunk. I was a runner at that time, so I was the lowest man on the thing. And at that time, it was $10 a pound to run it up from Florida to basically the Poconos.
So as the risk came up, you got paid for it.
Well, they got paid in the end.
Yeah.
I mean, when it got delivered, but it was usually between 300 and 400 or 500 pounds.
Okay.
I mean, it was serious weight, and in those days, we're talking a pretty long time ago.
So the car looks sort of ridiculous. What kind of cars were these? Because you can't put that in a Toyota.
Not Toyotas, but these were like big Cadillacs.
Okay, that's what I'm saying. All right,
huge trunks.
I'm like,
the preferred car was the bigger the trunk.
Yeah, for
Cutlass
sure.
Supreme, or
And were you trying to cover this weed up at all? Like put clothes over it, or was it just like? You opened the trunk and if you got pulled over, you
done.
were fucked.
I mean, there was no. You could smell it. It was, this was a suicide mission.
Yeah, for sure.
But at the time, and there were lots of people aware of this activity in terms of state troopers in Pennsylvania and through all these places have, this is a long standing route.
Yeah.
It's like the silk trade. You know what I mean? People come up from Florida and come up 95.
Yeah.
And then the job was to take it up into the Poconos. And in the backwoods, deep dark, and some road is meet this guy who would back up and switcheroo the weed out of the trunk into his trunk.
Yeah.
And that would be the end of the mission.
Now you're telling me like this is pre-GPS times. I can't
Yeah,
even
this
get
is back
somewhere without fucking.
man. This is
now
back.
tell me, like on those drives, there's got to be a time where you got lost. And you're like,
well, you're on 95. You're a straight line.
It's 95.
Yeah,
all
you're
day.
getting 95.
Your truck stops and shit.
Yeah, there's no stopping. There's no rest. There's no sleeping. There's,
Okay,
these
I
are,
see you.
These
I see
are
you
fucking
now.
missions. These are like.
I thought you were like meeting them in the woods or something.
Yeah, no, but on the road, then we would know off exit whatever.
Yeah.
Make a right, take left. I mean,
okay,
but,
got you.
We all survived back in the day without all that shit.
Yeah, no, exactly.
It was great.
We're all a bunch of bitches now.
Yeah, no, it was nice. Things were different. But anyway, we'd meet, we'd do the switch thing, and then I'd get $10. And so, over a 24-hour period, it took about 24 hours to go down there, drive.
Yeah.
You'd make $10 a pound. You'd make $3, $4, $5 grand.
Yeah.
In
So
24 hours.
So were you doing that on a full-time basis? Even if you had enough money to kind of cover what you were doing?
Well, I had other activities related to that job.
Yeah.
Which had to do with more of the wholesale distribution. So, I had other activities that were related. And the guy I worked for, who was the kind of the head of it, was like, you need to decide between music or this, because you need to put more time into this. And I was like, look, I'm doing this to fund the music. And the music was, an important part of what I did.
Yeah.
At the same time, I was in college, but I had a lot of money back then. I made probably more money than I've ever made back in those times. I had a huge Cadillac. I had all kinds of ridiculous toys and, lots of money, and most of it we blew and partied. These guys were all ex-Marines.
Yeah.
All wacky dudes, crazy mothers.
Yeah.
And we partied our ass off. I mean, if I made $5 grand, I'd spent $6. You know what I mean? And we're talking back in the day. This was like huge amounts of coke, huge amounts of like freebase. I mean, this guy had a mansion, and we would just hang out in that mansion and just go nuts.
Just get at it.
And
they call that a trap house now.
Yeah, no, it was crazy shit, man.
Yeah.
It was crazy. He must have paid every cop this was on a little town in an island.
Yeah. So you knew that, he's got to be, people got to know.
Because, we were on, this is a little fucking town. We're driving around in Cadillacs and leather jackets and big cars.
Yeah.
But, it's back in the day. I had a big band then, too. So, maybe people
thought that the
just
band
figured it was
like
part of rock and roll. And,
Yeah.
But, that went on for a fair amount of time. Until, as most of these stories go, that all caught up with us.
Yeah.
And whether...
How did that all happen?
It's a long, painful kind of story in some ways, but in the end, it was better I left that way than left, in a bag.
Yeah, in a bag, for sure.
Because there's really no way out of that easily.
Yeah.
Anyway, my brother, who was in California, came to live with me. Again, my twin brother.
Yeah.
And I was in college, and he was working had been in the restaurant businesses like maitre d' and like tableside dining and like the front of the house.
Yeah,
shit.
yeah.
And he came and went to go work in Atlantic City in some high-end restaurants there that were, French tableside dining and make Caesar salads and cook the steak. But he came to live with me and decided that, and he wasn't a partier, he wasn't cool. He was...
straight edge.
Very straight, very... even to this day. Now he's we're complete opposites. But saw this money and thought, why should you make all this money? And he started to get into the business and buy from me, and then he wanted not to pay anything, like get it for what I get it for.
Yeah.
Well, so why would I do that? I would be stupid.
Yeah, that's stupid. Yeah.
Anyway, and he decided that was all bad and whatever, and he wound up going to the people I worked for, which were, again, at the end of the day, maybe people that were friends.
Yeah.
But it was business.
Yeah.
And it was big money. We're talking, the stories are wacky, crazy, bags of millions of dollars of cash and hanging around in New York.
Well, here we are on Sucio Talk. Tell us about it.
No, so, there's not much to tell other than he came and decided, he needed to take that over. And he wound up going around my back to them and said I was screwing them, basically. And that was...
Your own brother. Twin brother. Born 5 minutes.
Who's
you guys have a good relationship now?
No.
Okay.
He's a Trump supporter. He's a...
fuck that.
He's a shallow... he's a spitting image of my father, who was not a nice person either. He's a racist, bigot, whatever. Yeah. Anyway, he decided, this was no good, and he needed to insert himself. So he went and told these guys that I was basically stealing from them.
Yeah.
And smoking or snorting. Huh?
Did they verify anything, or did they just assume that he was right?
Well, he took their word for it, and they came with a U-Haul truck, and he opened the door, and they unloaded my house, everything I owned. All my furniture, all they left was my underwear.
Yeah.
And he let him in. He was there. He opened the door, let him in. They came, moved all my furniture, all my possessions, all my stereo, all my records, all my... whatever I owned. Literally, everything I owned. Except my underwear and a couple pairs of...
What year was this?
Probably would have been... maybe 81, 82.
81, 82?
Somewhere around that. It could be off a few years, but somewhere in that time frame.
Yeah.
I graduated college in 1980.
Okay.
But this was right around that time. But he basically went to them. They came and, took all my shit. And then came looking for me. And I wound up having to get in my big fucking fancy Cadillac, with really whatever money I had left.
Yeah, and get the fuck out of town.
And head out of town. I had this guy who worked for me who was kind of my right-hand man, who turns out he was the reason I got screwed. He had taken a huge package of Coke that I was sending to somebody and took it home and cut it with like half of whatever and then put it in the mail. And so the person who got it refused to pay for it because it was crap. But I didn't find that out until years later. But, there's no honor among thieves, regardless of what they say. But anyway, I wound up running out of town, literally. They were chasing me. They were on the road behind me. And these guys all had guns and they were all ex-Marines and they were all not that friendly.
Now, with this whole operation, did it start with marijuana and then graduate to cocaine, or did you get there and it was just like this?
Well, no, it was it was always weed driven.
Yeah,
but the coke was something we all were into, so it became kind of a side thing. It
part
wasn't
of
the main part, but it was
But I think that's when the guns come in, no?
Well, guns were there anyway. These were good money, and these guys were serious, and we used to hang out in Gramercy Park in New York.
Okay.
Slang hotel, from there? Gramercy Park Hotel.
Okay.
And it was a huge hotel of lots of musicians, so we run into a lot of famous people there.
Yeah.
But we had the penthouse there, and we'd
Were
go
you guys
up there.
just selling to all the musicians?
No, we were up there basically collecting money and partying. And,
Yeah.
But we'd go up there and party for like weeks in the penthouse up on the top of that hotel. And literally bags, gym bags stuffed with cash.
Yeah.
Millions of dollars. Walking around New York with gym bags and party. So,
Yeah.
they were crazy dudes. They were fun when it was fun, and when it wasn't that much fun.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, but the whole thing after that, after I left and my brother kind of got inserted and he became kind of involved, he wound up, setting up some shit that didn't really work out in the end, but he got him a bunch of money and wound up him being able to take that cash that he had earned through ill-gotten means and turn it into something that he could use for a legitimate business.
Yeah.
So he started, my sister-in-law and my brother-in-law here in Rhode Island always have been a lobster business, and we're lobster fishermen. So we set up a lobster distribution company in New Jersey, in Atlantic City, to try to, wash some of that money.
Yeah.
And in the end, that didn't really work out because the mafia just said, okay, we'll take as many lobsters as you have, but we'll never pay you for them. So he kind of got driven out of there and started a business building prefab homes in South Jersey. But, that was kind of a long, winding road through a lot of stuff there. But, it was very interesting. It was a lot of fun and crazy. And the best thing was, in the end, we didn't get caught and or killed. And so at the end of the thing, looking back on it, it's kind of easy to romanticize about it. It was fun. It's like cowboys. It was a bunch of fucking cowboys. And these guys are real cowboys, though.
Yeah.
It was, crazy shit. But,
For sure.
After that, I kind of started to get back to reality. And
when you got out of town, where'd you go?
I went to Florida.
Okay.
I drove down and hung out in Tampa with this guy who his cousin lived down there.
Yeah.
And we were still partying our ass off. We still had a bunch of coke, and it was just crazy. It was the beginning of the end. But
might as well go out with a bang.
Yeah, no, that thing all fell apart, and at the end of the thing, I had to come back, my tail between my legs, and kind of rethink what I was really going to do.
Yeah.
And so I had a college degree, and I decided I was going to go work in sales, which kind of had been what my father had been in, and I had a background in business, so I wound up getting some jobs where they trained me in some big technology companies, big corporations, Fortune 500, and went into the corporate world.
Yeah.
And spent a lot of time in sales in technology, selling software, selling hardware, but $1 million worth, like systems that cost $5 million, $10 million, hardware that cost a couple million.
Where was the hardware company?
Oh, California. It
Okay.
was like Tandem Computers. I worked for NCR. I worked for Xerox. Some of these companies don't exist anymore, but big companies selling big systems.
Any Apple or Microsoft business over
No,
there?
these were big computers, not laptops or desktops.
Gotcha.
These were back-end, typically mainframes.
Okay.
And all the software around that environment. A lot of communication shit. And then we basically, through all of that, made some decent money, was in sales, wasn't that exciting, wasn't certainly as exciting as working for the Cowboys.
For sure.
It was corporate shit. But I was in sales, so I had a lot of freedom. Sales is you go out and stay out until you sell something. So it was a lot of freedom and a lot of traveling. But at that point, it was mostly just domestic shit. And I spent some time traveling on the holidays, and I wound up meeting my first wife down in Buccaneers Creek, Club Med.
Okay.
In, I don't remember the island. Anyway, one of the islands, Club Med. I met this woman from Montreal. And wound up, I lived in the States, she lived in Montreal, wound up connecting with her and eventually marrying her.
Okay.
And I moved up to Canada.
Yeah.
And wound up living in Toronto with her.
You were a Canadian citizen.
Well, I am now. I mean,
there you go.
Spent 13 years there, I have dual citizenship. But
Hey.
I may have to use it, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, I hear you.
And
At
so,
least you got an exit plan.
Yeah, hopefully I don't have to use it. I mean, because I came back, but
all the Trump supporters are like, go back to Puerto Rico, and you're like, it's part of the United States.
No, but it's so I spent that time in Canada married to this woman who was French Canadian and was crazy,
Yeah.
and it didn't work out. But in the
How
meantime,
many years we talking here?
3 or 4.
All right.
But I had, again, been in sales, and I wound up working for some companies, travel, and we wound up, this was banking software, selling to banks.
Yeah.
So I had a business going back and forth between Montreal and other cities in Canada, and then basically living in Toronto and traveling back every week to Montreal or British Columbia or wherever. And wound up moving, again, eventually with her to, downtown Toronto and some pretty fancy high-rise in the center of Toronto. But she was crazy, didn't really work out. In the meantime, I had met this other woman from Montreal, who was French, from Paris, who was a model. And, wound up leaving my wife and living with this woman, this French woman.
Yeah.
And wound up marrying her. She was a photographer, like a fashion photographer.
So from one marriage to the next.
Well, not immediately, but not in too much, fairly short order.
That's all right.
And she was a lot of fun. She was crazy too, French, and
Seems like you got a type.
Yeah, that was the type. I kind of changed. I changed my type after number 2. But, it was an interesting being in Montreal, which is very French, very European, and a good city, and then working for these companies gave me an opportunity to basically go out with some people and start a new company from ground up, and wound up launching with a bunch of people a new company in Toronto for healthcare, connecting pharmacies, insurance companies, and doctors in a network. And selling that and kind of doing that and banking at the same time. And we made a lot of money. It wound up being a very
lucrative business.
Good sales thing, good opportunity, and led to, some pretty lucrative years of income. But it was kind of in the corporate world, traveling around doing that. And then these same people that I speak of wound up creating out of this another company that was a startup, again, in the banking, healthcare, mostly healthcare, in Canada. And it became a huge company that I became the senior vice president of international business development and spent my time traveling around the world, literally around the world, trying to use this software and technology to find partnerships and joint ventures in basically third worlds. So my first, and in other countries that needed this kind of information and technology to manage their healthcare. So I spent a lot of time, all my time, traveling on the road internationally and opening up new markets. My first deal was in New Zealand, and I spent a bunch of time in Asia, in Cambodia, in China, and all over Latin America. I did a lot of deals, a really big deal in Argentina. Lots of work in Uruguay, in Venezuela, in Chile, all over.
Yeah.
I spent a lot of years going back and forth to South Africa, built a big company down there to do basically insurance claims processing.
Yeah.
And had a good time. I mean, I was on the road basically by myself, traveling wherever I wanted to go with a huge budget, first class air travel, 5-star restaurants. Eat
what
3 meals
restaurants
a day.
were you? Any memorable restaurants?
All around the world. I mean, pick one. I mean, I ate in some of the best restaurants you could imagine, and pick a country. I mean, we only went to the high end, all over Montreal, all over Canada, but spent a lot of money. And this company that, kind of, I was in charge of international, wound up evolving to a bunch of places that I wasn't really that happy with, and somebody who I had started the company was my partner, wound up basically screwing me, which is not an uncommon story. And then I went off kind of my own with some other people and went to reclaim these deals internationally and went to live in Brazil. And so I lived down in São Paulo for a couple of years.
Yeah.
And went...
What was that experience like?
Awesome. Brazil's great. Brazilians are great. The food's great. The beach is great. The weather's great. There's definitely issues in São Paulo.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
A big hole.
Everywhere there's issues,
Yeah, no, but it's beautiful people, great food. I mean, really cool place. And built some businesses down there, tried to get some joint ventures up and running. And living out of there, I was traveling all around kind of South America trying to develop that business. So that all kind of was going fine. I wound up living with my second French wife decided that she didn't really like me traveling all over and was fed up with me, so basically moved to Paris.
Yeah.
One day I got a call from my buddy. He said, hey, your wife's selling all your stuff in your condo downtown. And
where were you at this point?
in Brazil on the beach, and she's selling all your shit, man, for like nothing, your couches and your coffee tables and blah, blah, blah. So I called her. She said, yeah, I'm sick of this. Either you come home, quit your job, make me pregnant, or I'm leaving. I said, I own the company. How am I going to come home, quit the goddamn thing, and,
exactly.
pay for all your BMWs and your Range Rovers? And
Did she want to come to Brazil or no?
No. She wanted me to quit my job and stay home and make her pregnant.
She didn't meet you halfway?
No, so she went to Paris, and, I wound up settling with her, that marriage.
Yeah.
I'm still friendly with her, but, she decided, she didn't really want to do that.
Yeah, for sure.
Which is fine. And then I was in Sao Paulo, and I wound up living with this Brazilian woman and her daughter.
Okay.
And, that was interesting. And she was, I was living right in a really beautiful section of Sao Paulo, which is kind of an oxymoron, but it was like called Jardim District, and it was very fancy, lots of high-end restaurants, big condos. I had a condo up in a kind of high-rise.
Yeah.
And,
now tell me about living in Brazil. Now, obviously you go live somewhere, you got to get an ID and, do all the shit. Is that what you were doing down there? You had identification, you had...
No, I had a visa. I had a 6-month visa.
All right.
And I had permission to be there, and I worked with a lot of big companies and doctors and lawyers, and so I had a lot of people who would help me.
Yeah.
To a point, to be there without...
Any issues?
Well, yeah, without any of those issues.
Yeah.
And that was okay for a while, and it was fun, and, spent every weekend on the beach in between Rio and Sao Paulo.
There you go.
The most beautiful freaking rainforest, beaches, fucking... My boss would be like, how's it going down there? Great.
Yeah, you're sitting here in 20-degree weather.
He's like, hey, he's up in Toronto, it's snow, I'm laying on the beach. He's like, look, don't call me or waste our phone calls unless you have something to report in, okay? I said, no problem. I'd be down there for weeks at a time, laying on the beach, drinking, caipirinhas and hanging out with my girlfriend.
Yeah.
And that all was going okay, and Brazilian is a difficult place to do business. It's very corrupt. It's, got a lot of issues. But, again, it's a third world in some ways and the first world in others. It's kind of very European in some ways and very multicultural. So it was going all hot, straight, normal until 9/11. I was sitting in a meeting down in Valparaiso, which is in Chile, on the coast of Chile, in a boardroom. And the secretary came in and said, hey, there's been this accident she was watching CNN, come out into the whatever room to look at the TV, and it was the plane smashing into the World Trade Center. And that was like, holy shit, what's going on? And they were freaking out down there. They thought there was going to be a world war. Yeah. And that the world was, we're going into war. And so that really precipitated a bunch of reactions almost immediately. The company in the United States decided we didn't want to be in Brazil anymore.
Okay.
So I had been there like a couple days prior in a meeting. I went back down there, and literally the day I got down there, calls me and said, the person I was working for calls me and says, we're not running international anymore.
Yeah.
You don't have a job. There's no more vice president of international. I said, what are you talking about? I'm down here in Brazil.
You've been pushed out again.
He goes, well, two things. One, we can't pay any of the money we owe you for all your expenses and shit until we get some money in the door and blah, blah, blah. And two is you have the exclusive rights to our product across all of South America. Oh, thanks a lot. Basically, you go down there and... Yeah. So I was stuck down in Brazil, literally, no money, living with this woman in an apartment. Yeah. And then realizing the world was, coming to an end. And I needed to come back to at that point, to Canada. But I had no money. They couldn't pay me. They owed me a couple $100,000. Yeah. And I was stuck down there with no way to get out of there. I called my brother, who said, hey, can you send me enough money for a plane ticket? No.
What a dick.
You got yourself down there, you get yourself back.
He could have made it up to you. At least a little bit.
He's got nothing to make up. He's an asshole.
Okay.
Anyway, he refused to, and I managed to figure out how to get home. And, I took as much shit as I could. I had a whole apartment there. So that apartment full of all new furniture and all kinds of appliances. Yeah. So I couldn't take that home. So I took what I could and left that woman in the apartment. Said I'd be back soon, but I didn't know if I was ever coming back, and I thought I probably wasn't because I had no job, I had no money. The company was out of, leaving me out in the cold. And then I went back to Toronto, went to work for this company because the guy called me, said, that guy who told you you're fired, we fired him, and now we need somebody to run sales, so could you be the vice president of sales, and we can pay you like half of what we were paying you when we get money. So I was like, okay. And so I literally got an apartment sublet around the corner. Had no fucking money. He was working for this asshole. And he couldn't really pay me, but I immediately started looking for a job.
Yeah.
So I called all these people I knew in the States looking for a job, and I found a job in Detroit with a software company in the United States running the Northeast region out of New York City. So I'd be in New York, and they're down in... So they hired me, and I went in, my boss said, I'm leaving. He goes, what do you mean? I said, I'm leaving. I'm out of here. You stay here, you can't pay me, you owe me all this money. What am I supposed to live on, right?
Yeah.
I said, I'm going to work down in the United States, and I got a job, and I'm leaving tomorrow.
Yeah.
So I went to work for this company living in Brooklyn, in Park Slope, and running, selling, it was healthcare software for processing health insurance claims and shit.
Yeah.
Not a great company, but I was in New York, they were down there, and again, it was one of these phone relationships. You call in once a week, say, hey, yeah, it's going great. Everything's terrific. Bye. And so it gave me some time in New York to do my thing and to kind of revisit the music that I kind of had done previously.
Yeah.
So I was working for this company. Basically, I had all day, every day. They were paying me good money for sitting around, trying to sell their shit, which nobody was buying. And wound up connecting with this guy from Greece who lives in New York, who was a well-known guitar player from Greece. Mm-hmm. And awesome guitar player, and spoke Greek as main language and English as second language, and wound up connecting with him in a band and gigging with him around New York City for a couple of years in some good clubs. We played BB King's every other week for a couple of years. We did recorded a bunch of stuff.
Cool.
Played with a bunch of...
You got any albums out there?
Yeah, he's got a couple CDs out. Okay. And he was the main dude, and he was very, like a lot of, guitar players, very egotistical, very self-centered, very all about me. Yeah. But I backed him up, and we had fun. We played in a lot of good clubs, did a lot of good gigs there, played a bunch of festivals and stuff. And so it was fun to kind of reconnect with the music in a professional way. And had a couple bars. We were the regular band in New York and Manhattan. So we had a good time doing that, but, it was all... New York's a tough place to be in the music business.
Yeah, for sure.
There's less and less spots to play live music.
Yeah. So this is mid-2000s here.
This is back now. We're talking 2005.
Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah, mid-2000s. Probably a little before that when I got there. But this guy, him and I, built this band and then wound up playing around doing a bunch of that stuff and recording a bunch of his music. And that was okay. I was living in Park Slope, and I wound up meeting my current wife, Sandy, who was living on the Upper West Side in an apartment, big apartment, that she had bought and was right around the corner from Cinderella's and from Fairway. So it was like a great neighborhood.
So she saw you playing in the band?
No, we didn't meet that way.
Okay.
I mean, she had wound up connecting with me in the band and stuff, but she met me through an online dating, basically. I met her on Match.com.
Match.com.
This is back in the day.
2006?
Around there. But I met her, and she was in kind of a similar place in terms of her career. She was living in Europe for 11 years or something in Belgium.
Yeah.
And had come back to New York and was kind of at the end of her kind of career at a company she was working at and was sick of working for him and doing what they were, again, a software banking company.
Yeah.
And we wound up connecting, and she wound up living with me pretty much in Brooklyn. And the apartment in Manhattan was this fancy, like, Architectural Digest, like, very slim lines, very modern. Yeah. There's nothing laying out. Everything's away. There's not anything. It's like...
You can't see the trash can.
Clean. There's nothing. Like, nobody lives here. It's like at a museum. But she came to live with me in Brooklyn in Park Slope in a floor-through, which was a cool apartment. And, we had fun. I was playing music, and that was cool. And then we decided that... she was kind of getting done with that company. We had a bet who was going to come out of the thing first, who would get fired first.
Yeah.
And this company wound up keeping me on forever. They made me a deal that, hey, can you stay on for a few more months and we'll keep paying you? Really? And we'll give you unemployment for 6 months. Really?
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah, why not?
So I wound up going with her, and we decided we're going to move to California and wound up moving to San Francisco.
Yeah.
And buying a house in San Francisco.
Okay.
And living in the mission, not the mission, what's the name of that? Living in San Francisco proper, in the city.
Yeah.
In a really cool house, in a really cool neighborhood. The West Portal, it was called.
Okay.
Right on the end of where the subway comes out of the ground, above ground.
All right.
And wound up living in San Francisco, and she started a business to do executive recruiting with some people, and start her own business with them.
Yeah.
Which she still does to this day, and does well at it, and she's very good at it. She's very organized. And then I started deciding, what I was really going to do, and I went back and tried to dust off my gardening, and I always had an interest in gardening and growing, but more importantly, cooking and eating. And eating well and cooking well, and food was always a big part of my life. And cooking food, I've always been the person cooking the food. And so, I went to California and decided we spent a bunch of time around gardening.
Yeah.
Growing all kinds of stuff. I redid a bunch of gardens in San Francisco, but then started, studying with a bunch of people how to grow plants.
Yeah.
And all kinds of plants. And again, there was a very supportive group of people growing weed. So there was a lot of resources there to and I had the legal right to do it. I was allowed to do it.
Yeah.
So I had a, opportunity to kind of study growing stuff, and I don't differentiate between plants. I mean, plants are plants.
Yeah.
I mean, all plants are worthy, and they're all equal, and some are worth more when they're done, but I mean, in terms of growing stuff and how you grow stuff. So I spent a lot of time around that and got some good working knowledge, and, got kind of to the point where I was growing some reasonably good weed.
Yeah.
Not great, but reasonably good. And there you could buy clones pretty easily, and I was doing some of that. And I was growing a ton of plants, all kinds of flowers, all kinds of herbs. But, basically just dicking around with trying to figure out that, and then the food, connecting with all the food in San Francisco, which between the farmers markets and all of the opportunities and types of food and the amount of food, it's kind of driven around that.
Did you have any favorite restaurants in San Francisco at that time? That you can think of?
That I can think of. What's the name of the one that's right on Market Street? It's famous. It's Chicken. It will come to me.
Yeah.
Like the slanted door and all the stuff down at the ferry building.
Mm-hmm.
But there was another one. It's still there. What the hell's the name of it? It's famous. It's on Market Street. The woman's been cooking this forever. It will come to me. But there were a few places, and even in the West Portal, there were good restaurants. There was a bunch of ethnic restaurants up there.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of food. But in terms of buying the food, cooking the food, having access to the food, there was all that opportunity in California.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
And the amount of food we ate there, just the amount and I had the time. My wife was building her business. I was, growing stuff. I renovated the house. I redid the whole inside of it.
Yeah.
I spent a lot of time doing that. But I spent a lot of time around the growing stuff, how to grow stuff, and then more importantly, cooking. I've always been cooking. I mean, I've always had an interest in cooking, in food. And what really brought me to growing stuff was cooking.
Yeah.
I was more interested to grow the stuff, to cook it, to eat it, as what drove me to really want to farm and to grow stuff. And then to really, I've always been connected to healthy food. So I studied a lot of macrobiotics when I was in college and stuff, and a lot of vegetarian stuff. And, I had a lot of basis in that kind of cooking. And then I've been cooking forever. I mean, I've been cooking every meal for every marriage, I cook all the meals. I do all the meal planning, all the ordering, all the cooking and all the stuff. I don't do the cleaning at this point, but, I do all that stuff. And, really the connection between growing it and being able to eat it and know where it came from and what it is. And, that's still to this day a big driver of what I do.
Yeah.
It's really for our own benefit, too, especially now. But, anyway, San Francisco gave me a lot of opportunity to spend a lot of time around those topics and really get kind of my dog, who died not that long ago, Abby, was young then, and her and I used to spend, pretty much every weekday.
Yeah.
Take the bus and the subway. She was allowed on the mass transit after 10 o'clock in the morning, and we'd go to every dispensary we could find and tour every, dispensary, go to every place, pet store where they had pet treats. But, really got to roam around San Francisco a lot. And long story short, San Francisco, we were at a point where we needed to figure out to make more money to stay there because it was expensive as hell.
Yeah.
between the taxes and all the rest of the shit. So Sandy had an opportunity to go back to work in the corporate world, and she didn't want to do that, and they didn't wind up offering that job.
Yeah.
And so we decided we need to get out of there, and we put our house on the market, and in a couple of weeks had offers over the listing price, and sold the house pretty quickly, and came back to live here in Rhode Island.
Yeah.
You know, my sister's here, and my sister and I were estranged for many years and didn't speak to each other.
Okay.
For a lot of reasons. But, you know, kind of came back here and reconnected with her, and reconnected with her family who's here. She's got, you know, her siblings here, and they now have siblings.
Yeah.
And came back here and, you know, basically found this house. Sandy did.
Yeah.
She came back a couple times, sussed out this place. And we wound up moving back here, and then my brother-in-law and sister have the 16 acres there.
Yep.
And it offered me, you know, kind of in the rockiest, hilliest, shittiest part of the field to use it to grow stuff. My brother-in-law said, here, you can grow here at the bottom of this hill where it's like all rocks. It took me a month to get the rocks out of here. Seriously. And at the bottom of the hill, so all the shit rolls down the hill. And he says, you can grow whatever you want here as long as it's legal.
Yeah.
And, you know, I started to build out that little plot.
Are we legal in Rhode Island now?
Which part?
Anything.
Well, yeah, I've been
just the
a
medical?
legal caregiver,
Okay.
licensed caregiver.
There's no recreational.
No, there's medical.
Okay, gotcha.
And they're talking about recreational, and they're dicking around. But
It'll be a couple of years out.
well,
We'll
they're
get
wasting their time. We're just giving our money to Massachusetts. But I've been in the program in pretty almost 10 years in Rhode Island as a caregiver, a licensed caregiver for patients.
Yeah.
And that's legal.
Have you had kind of, you know, long-standing patients, or
Yeah.
you know, I'm sure you've lost some along the way.
I did, but I mean, I've had the ones that I want
Yeah.
for a long time. And
what diseases are we mainly talking about here?
it's pretty much anything you can think of, but the main ones, any kind of chronic disease,
Yeah.
you know, any kind of chronic illness. And then there's others like back pain and nausea, and others that would qualify, headaches and migraines. And I don't know their pathology.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
they
yeah.
don't come to me and say, hey, I have AIDS, or I have, you know,
They're just like, give me
they
some
have a
fucking
license
weed.
or
Yeah.
prescription from their doctor.
I hear you.
And every year we have to go through that, and I have to get licensed every year and do a background check and all that kind of stuff. But I've been doing it for 10 years and pretty strict around trying to stay within the bounds of what I'm allowed to do.
Exactly, yeah,
You know,
yeah.
I'm not trying to do anything crazy. I'm not
Yeah.
trying to make money. I do it more for me. And
Then
then
I've
I've taken...
always grown a primo product.
Now it's even 10 times premier. Wait until you check
Oh,
that
my
out.
God.
Now it's 10 times
I'm gonna
better.
be falling asleep over
Now
here.
it's 10 times better. That's a nice. That's nice because it's uppity. It's not
Yeah, yeah.
sleepy. But you know, I've spent a lot of time around, and not given again what I was just saying. Not around that plant, around all plants, and all about, you know, the approach to soil biology and all about the microbiology, and really using microbes and trying to feed the soil to feed the plants. So whether that's the wheat or the tomatoes or whatever it is,
Yeah.
the approach is all the same. It's using as many micro or, you know, kind of all kinds of new microbes being created to
Yeah.
help digest organic materials to make it available for plants. So there's a lot of development in this area for stuff that's hard to imagine using it in a farm, right? But, you know, my kind of situation is unique because I can take all the stuff I've learned kind of and use indoors or use around, you know, like a high value crop and apply it to all things because I'm small enough I can take stuff that wouldn't make sense in a big environment to go
Yeah.
out on a farm and start using this expensive, you know what I mean? But I can do that, and I can apply all those things and grow some premium, whatever it is. You know, I always try, and I still try, is to grow the best whatever it is I can grow. The best cucumber, the best tomato, the best bud, the best, you know, what it's not. And however I can do that, but it's all the same approach. I mean, a lot of people are myopic around plants and like, this plant is very... No, they're all plants, dude. Plants
Yeah.
are plants. They all have some unique things, but, you know, the principles are the same.
Yeah.
And, you know, kind of growing or farming took over for music for me, you know.
Yeah.
The music thing is, you know, it's kind of almost like cooking, too. A lot of these things are similar. There's ratios.
Yeah.
So, like in growing and farming, and, you know, there's a lot of ratios. There's a lot of relationships.
Science
There's a
and
lot
math.
of things that are mathematical, you know, like cooking.
Yeah.
You know, there's math involved. You know, it's a lot of ratios, and when you know the ratios and the basics, you know, there's things you can do And, it's kind of like
endless.
Music's the same way. Music's about a bunch of relationships and a bunch of mathematical things. And so it kind of satisfies that need. I'd rather be playing music, but at this point I don't want to play music, casually or just for fun. If I want to play, I want to play with
for real. Yeah.
Well, I mean, even jam with a bunch of guys with real instruments, with real, with electricity, with I just don't want to dick around, and so that would be fun to do. But the growing stuff satisfies the real need around that too, because it's a real opportunity to. Like a lot of these things we're talking about. It's even like cooking.
Yeah.
Or, any of those things. It's like taking things and transforming it into something else.
All right.
So like taking a seed and turning that into a plant and turning it. So, it's like taking a raw ingredient and turning it into something special.
Yeah.
And I listened to Charlie and you during your podcast, and he was on to a lot of, what's important in the process. It never ends. It's the constant looking for varieties and seeds and strains. Sure. And then looking and studying around stuff to support all of that. And then, like he was saying, to get from a pepper to eat it from where you start, I mean, that process is so long, and people don't appreciate that.
Exactly.
And it's just...
or don't fathom it. Because, we're all used to supermarkets.
Yeah, and you go there and it's sitting there. But
full.
I mean, peppers, I start my peppers. I buy them in October and November.
Yeah.
I'm just starting them now.
Yeah.
The first pepper I have maybe will be July.
Exactly.
Probably August. And so there's
that's a real roll of the dice for a farmer.
Yeah, no, it always is.
Who's going to buy them?
Well, the good news is everything I grow now, pretty much people buy.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm not at the point anymore.
I'm more talking about starting out.
Yeah, no, for sure. I did that forever. I grew a whole lot of stuff. People said, "Hey, why don't you grow this? Grow some chicory for me." Hey, dude, I got all this chicory. Do you want it? No, we don't want that. We don't want that. Seriously.
That sounds like a chef.
It happened all the time. Oh, this shit's bitter. Really? It's bitter? It's chicory, dude. It's bitter?
That's amazing.
Oh, yeah, no, we don't want this. It says this isn't the right variety. You picked the variety. Yeah. I showed you the catalog. You picked the one, and then you told me it's no good. So I did that for years.
Jesus
You're like knocking
Christ.
your head in the wall. Here, I grew all this stuff you wanted. Oh, we don't want any of that. That's off the menu now. We changed the menu.
Yeah.
Well, you forgot to mention that when it was like a 3-month ramp up to get to, the first. But the good news is the people I work with now, the chefs, that's been a long struggle. And the hardest part is not the people shit. Yeah. I mean, because the endearing part about doing this is two things. One, I love doing it. So I love playing in the soil and growing this stuff and connecting with all of what that is and having the knowledge and the ability and the results to do it.
Yeah.
And then really the people part of it is, connecting with people that are driven and passionate about the ingredients, that really recognize the difference between a shitty this and a shitty that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You could buy this from anybody, and maybe you should, because if you don't appreciate this one. But, my approach is to grow the best I can grow and then connect with people that recognize the quality.
The work that went into it, yeah.
Or my passion for it.
Yeah.
A lot of people tell me this, and I'll take their word for it, is that I care.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't give a shit. You just throw it in there. Here it is. You got it. And I really care. I won't sell people shit that I don't 100% behind.
Exactly.
I don't think is up to snuff. I'll say, no, sorry, it's not up to snuff. It's fine. It's not fine. But anyway, the people part gets harder because as the pressure becomes, kind of insurmountable in the restaurant industry where we are today and where we've been for a year. Let's not mince words. We've been in this... we don't know where we're going.
Limbo.
There's no end date, so it's been this, kind of this big quagmire of what's going to happen. So that's really put it two things. It's changed the demand in some ways, which again I still have plenty of what I grow I can sell. It made people a lot more focused on the business, which happens a lot when the business isn't doing that well, because at the end of the day, it's a business.
Yeah, you definitely.
So the people side kind of suffers a lot because people are pissed off, people aren't doing well, people are tired of wearing a fucking mask all day. So it's a different. It just doesn't have the same. And I don't want to go. Like I've told chefs this straight up. I don't want to come here after I've been in the field all fucking day. At 80 degrees, 90 degrees, with dirt all over me, and listen to you bitch at me. I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm not going to do it. I don't make any money. It's like, oh, yeah, well, what money, dude? I'm not making anything on it. You think I'm going to come here and take shit from you?
Yeah.
I'm not doing that anymore. Sorry. let's like come here and we can have some cordial, kind of friendly, whatever.
Yeah.
Go fuck yourself.
I think a lot of times chefs feel entitled to, kind of scold a farmer if something isn't good enough.
Yeah.
Now, don't get me wrong. There's some farmers that are trying to sell you some shit that's
Absolutely
old or not good.
Totally.
But when you're dealing with a good farmer, I've seen it a lot from other chefs I've worked with. They're like roasting people, and it's like, dude, this guy didn't come here for that.
Oh no,
like,
I get so disrespected. So disrespected.
Yeah, it is.
The most, and again, take it for what it's worth. If they hear it, I guess it's life in the big city. But like the cookhouse, Clark Cookhouse.
Yeah.
Good customer. Been a customer for a long time. Treat me like shit.
Yeah.
Really, treat me like my time doesn't matter. I've been on the field all day. You're going to make me stand in the corner for half an hour and then not take anything?
Yeah, that's that ego.
Yell at me and
that.
then tell me to go fuck off. And, what are you, out of your mind?
Yeah.
So, anyway, having said all that, I have a core group of chefs that I connect with.
Yeah.
That I appreciate and respect what they do, and they respect what I do.
For sure, yeah. Back in the day when we started dealing with you, you used to sell to the TSK guys.
Yeah.
And those guys are still around, with
I still sell to them to this day. Their models changed a lot.
Yeah, for sure.
Mission's been a customer for 8 years. I've been growing the shoots for them forever.
That Mission burger.
And we're, again, it sounds like a little thing, but we're over $100,000 and more.
Yeah.
Just radish shoots. They blow through some serious amount of radish shoots.
Yeah.
So that's all good. It's just been very frustrating from the people's side of that. And then I hate delivering. The worst thing about what I do is delivering.
Yeah.
I hate being out in the traffic and going out and fighting these people who bring the shit to them. So
after 10 hours
and so I made some hard decisions as the
labor.
pandemic kind of set in, and things got a little squirrelier. I'm 63.
Yeah.
I don't have a lot of pre-existing conditions, but I don't want to catch anything, and I don't want to get sick or any, so I became a lot more stringent in the people I would
for sure.
sell to. If they're only buying $5 worth of stuff, sorry, dude, I'm not coming here for $5. Not anymore. You know what I mean? I have some real customers that buy stuff, and I'll deliver to them. But, I've had to really make some changes in putting myself out there. And I don't know where we're going. I really don't know where the whole thing's going. I have customers calling me now. Hey, what do you have available? What are you going to have? What? So I'm starting to plan my season.
Yeah.
And, I've done well the last couple seasons with trying to keep less of more. So have more of a crop rather than have a million things.
Mm-hmm.
So just have a lot more things that, and the peppers do well. I grow a lot of shishitos and a lot of other peppers, specialty peppers, like the new habadanas. They're the ones that aren't hot, the habaneros.
Yeah.
Grew a shitload of those. Those are so good. I made a whole bunch
Charlie
of them.
loves them.
Oh, they're so good. I made fermented pepper sauce with them.
Yeah.
They were so good.
He makes that for the Charter Oak, and
they were so good.
He made it also for the truffle shuffle hot sauce for
they were
Super
so
Bowl.
good. They take a long time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They take forever.
For sure.
And the shishitos are good because they keep producing. And I have some varieties that are hybridized that are kind of bushy.
Yeah.
That are really producing.
Okay.
And I get $6, $7, $8 a pound for them. So, that's good.
Yeah.
A lot of the other stuff, again, I'm one person. I can't really compete and don't want to compete. It's like tomatoes. I don't specialize or spend my whole time on tomatoes. I grow tomatoes. There's so many people,
work.
that's all they do.
Yeah.
And they're on the tomatoes, and they got tomatoes like dialed in like you would.
Well, you gotta, sometimes you look at ordering and buying shit, and it's like, sometimes you just gotta go to the guy who does it just one thing to get the best.
Well, not only that, and then their price is better.
Yeah, exactly.
Having tomatoes in the middle of the summer when everyone has tomatoes, they're worth nothing.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, dude, we're buying them. So I don't try to play those games.
At the garden before I left.
They got an awesome farm.
They started doing these late harvest tomatoes. You kind of like hang up and so that'd be cool.
Concentrates.
Yeah.
No, there's some cool stuff that I follow some of what they do. The farmer dude who was growing this stuff, what's his name?
Zach Yoder, shout out.
Yeah, some amazing stuff. But a lot of those, the things that I can do and make money on without killing myself.
Yeah.
Is really predicated on taking crops that I can set up from the get-go in a fairly low-maintenance environment, meaning weeding and whatever, and have it pretty much dialed in, wired in from the beginning with irrigation or whatever, with ground cover, with covers, and go from there.
Were you doing indoors all along? Or okay.
I've always done indoors.
Always.
The beginning of micros was indoors. And I built this other greenhouse now here where I can do them. But the reality is a lot of people grow micros in greenhouses because the sun is cheap. And, I've tried, and I do some there, but you can't compete with the quality.
Yeah.
In a controlled environment indoors. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like indoors, I have it dialed in vertical racks with the right lights, with the right everything. And the crops are pristine. There's never anything in there. When you get out in the greenhouse, I mean, they definitely can do it. It's just I find the indoor environment, and then I can do it all year long. You know what I mean? Again, I can take stuff I've learned from growing indoors and apply it to a bunch of stuff. Like the micros are a constant challenge because it's like all the things, all the ingredients, there's so many variables. It's like a recipe.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're the same ingredients, but they're all different. It was different water, it was different soil, it was different seeds, you know what I mean?
Different altitudes.
So all that shit
everything.
factors in.
Yeah.
So the recipe was exactly the same. I followed it just like we did last time, and it tastes like shit. But because all these other factors and variables come into play, so I still spend a lot of time trying to dial in the best practices for the micros.
I mean, Marco Pierre White always said, Mother Nature is a true artist, and it's true. Yep. And any recipe you make, if the starting product is not good, it's not going to be good. Yep. But if you have dynamic produce and somebody who cares growing it, then your product's just going to be better just because of that.
Well, and then eating it too. I mean, not all shit's created equal when you grow it. I mean, there's nutrient dense vegetables and things you can grow if you have the right soil and the right nutrients, and then there's shit you can grow that's anemic. It looks like a piece of lettuce, but it's got no nutrients. It's just a piece of freaking lettuce. And greens, I grow a lot of greens. Greens are still a good thing to grow. Mustards, specialty mustards, and all kinds of that stuff. But I'm having to think really at this point, looking out in the future. I mean, I've had to change too because a lot of people with COVID aren't smoking anymore either. They don't want a combustible.
Exactly, yeah.
So they want oils, they want gummies. So now I do lots of gummies.
Yeah.
Lots of oil.
At least you get to kind of meld the two worlds, cooking and doing that.
I mean, again, the best of all those worlds is the growing, cooking, and eating of said whatever. You know what I mean? Whether it's wheat or tomatoes or lettuce or microgreens or... it's nice to be able to have that. But and I've worked a lot on finding the right nutrients, finding the right inputs.
Yeah.
And you can tell me about that weed. I mean, I'm growing some stuff now that just accentuates all the flavor, all the smell, all the terpenes. It just brings out everything.
For sure.
And it's a pain in the ass. It's hard to do. It takes forever in terms of it's like 15 parts and very particular. But it grows the most amazing shit.
Yeah.
And they make some products that are... kind of the light version for you can use on vegetables and fruit trees. And so I've been using a lot of that stuff on fruiting vegetables, tomatoes, peppers, cucumbers, stuff with fruit, flowers, and amazing results. I mean, just incredible.
Yeah.
And so that's been part of the challenge is trying to sort through and understand the toolkit.
Yeah.
And then to be better at using those tools, whatever they are, whether it's bone meal or, all kinds of stuff that have different effects on the outcome of whatever it is.
Exactly.
So, that's kind of the challenge today is I'm one guy. I don't have to do this. Like, I don't do it. I mean, I do it for money, but that's not what drives me. I don't get up in the morning and say, I'm going to make money growing shit. I usually get up in the morning and say, how am I going to make what I'm growing better today and make it as best as I can? And then if somebody wants to buy it or not, we'll figure that out.
Yeah.
But, my orientation is not around the money. I mean, I have to turn it into a business. And over the years I've been doing this, I had to turn it into more of a business. Because, you keep working, you make no money. That's stupid.
Yeah.
So I've gotten a lot more focused, which I don't like, around the money part.
Yeah.
But, money is important because it's expensive. My freaking electric bill is $1,000.
Yeah.
The freaking lights in the garage. They're all a couple $100 a piece. So, it all costs money.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm doing it for a cheaper price because I can sell at volume.
Yeah.
But I really don't know the future. I think at this point, I'm just going to keep my head down. Last season, it was the same shit. I mean, we knew we were going into uncharted waters in March. And I was already kind of starting my season.
Yeah.
So I kind of scratched my head and then some other parts. And said, this is fucking crazy, dude. Doing
Yeah.
what you've always done and think you're going to go out and sell garnishes
Yeah.
in a takeout box for, that's stupid. So I didn't do it. I said, hey, that's not make any sense. I
Yeah.
mean, people are putting $70 meals in a cardboard box. But do they want to stick some mushy micros on there and have some garnish? No.
No, exactly.
It's stupid. It doesn't make any sense. So I'm going to stay the course on the things that I do well. The radish shoots are my French fries.
Yeah.
I mean, they pay the bills. I hate doing them. I shouldn't say that. I don't hate doing them. It's not inspiring. It's like, again, peeling the potatoes. You got to get up every day. You do it. You got your eyes closed. Fucking I hate potatoes. And then, just doing it. Putting one foot in front of the other and doing it. It's not exciting, but at the end of the day, it's $16 a pound.
Yeah.
Times 20 pounds, 30 pounds, it's money.
For sure.
And it's volume. And it's one customer. I just drop it there, done. And they're good customers. They've always paid on time. I've never had any issues. I may have an issue today because I have this other variety that isn't the right variety. But
yeah.
And then I've worked with a lot of other people in town. I've worked with a lot of people. I worked with all kinds of people. When Greg was at Birch and working with Ben, I used to see Greg every week.
He came over to the restaurant and did 12 days with us.
Yeah, I know.
And I'm going to have him on the podcast.
He's cool. Greg's, I don't know what he's doing now. He found a girl.
Cool. I think he's at Oberlin right now. No? Where's he at then?
He disappeared in the food thing. He just vanished. He vaporized.
Oh, let me see.
He went out west and he's met some girl.
Well, for the people out there, you'll get to know what Ben Sukel's doing probably in 2 weeks from now, something like that.
Yeah, no, I follow Ben, but Greg went off the radar and he met some woman and he showed pictures of him up in the mountains hiking, doing
he reappeared a little bit.
But yeah, he was, somebody I worked with at TSK.
Yeah.
He was around for a long time. Again, at the end of the story, in terms of chefs and connecting with those people, I don't have great. I mean, I know them all. They all know me.
Yeah.
I'm a known commodity here. I've been doing this for 10 years here, just about 10 years.
Yeah.
So I know a lot of people. A lot of people know me. A lot of people aren't my customers anymore, which is fine. But at the end of the story, probably the highlight so far, we'll see what happens, was really the Tallulah's thing and Jake. Jake was an inspiration. Sure. He was a source of, always exciting stuff, different stuff.
Yeah.
He was passionate and driven about the ingredients. He
made you want to do better.
It was fun working with him in the garden, building that garden in the back and doing all that. It was fun. He was fun.
You were the first farmer that I had a relationship with.
No, and it was great to see him every day. I enjoyed.
Food,
I don't have anybody like that.
Yeah.
I miss that. It was great for him to connect with what I was doing, and then it was just fun. And he was a cool person. And I don't have those kind of people.
Yeah, I mean, you'd come in and eat staff meal with us.
It was great. I mean, I have people that are friendly to me
and
that are nice, but it's just not the same thing. I mean, I have people do farm dinners with me.
Yeah.
I provide all that, but it's not the same thing, and the vibe's not the same.
Yeah.
But Jake was, an inspiration. He did different stuff. Tallulah's, to this day, was still the best restaurant in Newport.
For
there's
sure.
There's a lot of shit here, and a lot of it's just foo-foo dust.
I love it, man. He got in here and he kicked the game by the balls.
Yeah, no, and now he's doing well, and he found a way to make it into a solid business.
Yeah, for sure.
Tallulah Taco's
sure.
great.
I was the first.
Did he sell Dirks?
I was the first prep cooks for the cart.
Yeah,
the taco cart.
Yeah, I remember.
And then that blew up. Then he had 2 carts.
Yeah.
Then he had the Shack in Jamestown, which is open this summer.
And he's opening another.
And he's opening some other, in
Jamestown.
So
right?
He's got a few projects going.
Yeah.
And
did he sell Dirks?
Super happy for him. I don't know about that.
He must have.
I'm sure I'll talk to him.
He must have
at some point
because there's never any mention anymore. They must have taken that whole concept from him and ran with it and gave him a bunch of money, which would be great.
Yeah.
He didn't want to do that anyway. He said, "I'm going to focus on the tacos. We're going to get someone else to run that."
Yeah, for sure.
So that was great. But yeah, Jake was to this day, somebody I always think back and. Was fun. A lot of times not that much fun. Like I said, I go into these restaurants, I got to deal with some guy with an attitude, some fucking chef with his head up his ass.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, do I look like I'm getting rich on this?
Yeah.
I have people tell me, oh, you're so lucky you get paid right away, and, it's big invoice.
Dude, enough of that.
I said, what are you talking about, dude? There's no one ever comes in here who leaves out the front door who hasn't paid you.
That's a negative fucking...
Who never paid you? Nobody leaves this restaurant without paying. What do you mean? I give you an invoice, you pay it whenever you want. Like this kind of shit. It's like... So...
all you chefs out
people
there,
stuff has always been hard. I'm not a people person. I'm not going to pretend.
Yeah.
I miss having those connections to people. I have people in transactionally that but at this point, I'm going to focus on growing stuff and doing my thing, finding new things to grow. I just got done doing my, worldwide search of new seeds, new plants, new verbs, new whatever. And so I'm excited to kind of kick that off. And I don't know what's going to happen. Again, the good news is push come to shove, it's not going to affect, at the end of the day, our ability to eat.
Yeah.
And the good news is
what matters.
Yeah, and the good news, too, is, what's happened with the pandemic is a lot of people that traditionally only had a distribution model to restaurants or commercial have now selling directly to me. So I can buy from Regalis Foods. I buy all the time, unbelievable stuff from them.
It's great,
Unbelievable stuff.
I think that's going to revolutionize their market for sure.
Well, they found out they have great customers.
Yeah.
They don't need, they got customers as good as restaurants. And then I have Fulton Fish Market. They deliver overnight, free shipping, unbelievable quality fish, all kinds of stuff. And then I can buy from Farm Fresh now.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
So they deliver here once a week.
Okay.
And although you got to buy some volume, I have access to great amount of food, good food, and that's been kind of fun to get that.
Yeah, the Rhode Island farms, the whole system here is amazing.
Yeah.
So shout out.
No, they got it really dialed in. I'm happy to have access to all that stuff. Again, at the end of the day, all of it's about the food, is about growing the stuff. This time of year we're eating the micros that I can grow. Yeah. I do a lot of sprouts in the winter just because they're healthy and I can do them cheap and easy and they're good greens for us. And then, the seed starting stuff and whatever, I'm just literally kicking that off. This week is onions and leeks and violas and that kind of stuff. Yeah. But I have all my seeds. This thing became further developed as the pandemic went. All of a sudden, there's a huge craze for farming, and most of the seed companies already either shut down because the volume's killing them. There's too much, or they have no seeds left. People just went nuts. You couldn't get shit.
I got this job, and I was looking for a mixer, and there's no fucking Hobart mixers anyway. There's no flour. I remember going back to work and opening
yeast.
Up.
You couldn't find
People
anything.
were baking at home, and they took all the flour. All the yeast is gone. Toilet paper.
So all those things, are kind of a pain. And I don't know. I'm not optimistic that the vaccine in itself is going to take us out of the woods.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens coming up here. And
it's been a different time and a different place. Yeah. But, that's pretty much what I'm up to.
Yeah.
And, trying to keep it simple, keep it real. No fluff here.
Fuck yeah.
We just keep it real, dude.
Fucking Jeff Stewart.
Just keeping it, New England's weird. This winter's been mild so far.
Yeah.
We haven't had a really crazy winter for a couple of seasons, which is nice. Because another couple of weeks, it's trying to make the donuts.
It was snowing here earlier.
Yeah, but a little snow. We've had some cold. But February will go fast. I wound up building the whole driveway into a garden.
Yeah.
I took the car and everything.
I saw that, I was trying to walk in. I was like, whoa, this is barricaded out here.
A couple 100-gallon fabric pots in lines here along with a whole bunch of other pots.
Okay.
In here, I can grow a ton of stuff. And I do all the garnish stuff, like the little flowers and stuff.
Yeah.
A lot of them, I can grow them right here.
I concentrate.
So I can come out and just pick the stuff. I had a ton of tomatoes here, a ton of other stuff. And I built a nice little hoop house. That little greenhouse is about 12 feet. That thing's perfect for whatever I need to do. And then in the field, I still have, a couple bigger hoop houses that need to be recovered. But, that needs a ton of work. I wish I had someone to help me, but that ain't going to happen.
Fuck yeah.
I'm happy to go out there and figure out how to rein it in. But, at this point, it's all about being smart, how I work, and just trying to do it more efficiently. You know what I mean? Just get better at doing it and do it without killing myself. I like hard work. If I didn't spend all day outside, I'd go crazy.
Yeah.
I like
I
the
hear
outdoors.
You, man. I hear you. All right. Well, fuck yeah, Jeff. Thanks a lot for being on Sucio Talk.
Well, hopefully that encapsulates something of what you were looking for.
Oh, for sure, man. It's inspiring to hear somebody that's had so many different jobs, end up doing what he loves.
It took a long time. It took a long time. It did,
Well, sometimes it takes a long time to get there, and that's part of the narrative now. It's like you don't need to be successful right away.
No,
there's a certain journey that's worth it to take the time to,
And unless you've had that journey, you're not going to appreciate it anyway. You're not going to understand or appreciate or. I'm 63. I'm lucky. I've had a great opportunity to do a ton of shit, travel all over. I saw the whole freaking world. And that was another part of the food thing. I mean, when I traveled around the world, I got to eat everywhere. I got to meet all these cultures. I got to find all this shit. It was fucking great. So, I mean, I was really lucky.
Fuck yeah.
And then, I just hope people growing up in the world today are going to have that opportunity.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We're not going to have, you can't get on a plane. You can't go out
You
here.
can't go to restaurants. Yeah, it's
you
fucking
can't
crazy.
Go on vacation,
I'm worried more for the youth.
Yeah, me too. I'm
being
saying.
home, pent up, no socializing. It's like,
well, then the future thinking
makes
of it.
weirdos. Everybody that's homeschooled is weird. I'm sorry.
We all had it easy. I mean, we could run around, and we didn't think it was easy, but nobody thought twice. You go anywhere, do anything.
Yeah,
it was great.
It really makes
I didn't see it coming,
what
dude.
the hell the world was before.
I didn't see it coming.
All right.
I heard the virus in China when it was starting. I kind of said that's interesting, but it snuck right up on us. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
One day we were fine, and the next day it was a holy shit.
Exactly.
The world's just changed.
But I think the spirits are checking us.
We are. Yeah, man.
All right. Signing off. 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 All right. Signing off.